What happens to a world where every decision you make and every history you learn must filter through a digital brain? Within the frontiers of sovereign AI, we are confined behind a cognitive sieve engineered by national will. It does not merely censor, it structurally refines every piece of reality before it reaches you, predetermining your conclusions. Truth has lost its universal flow, halting instead at digital checkpoints where it is processed into isolated, bordered realities. We are entering an era of cognitive partitioning. Are you ready for the final defensive battle for your right to think? Consider a radical survival hypothesis. What if a nation's digital heart simply stopped, not due to an energy blackout, but because its right to think was remotely revoked? A few years ago, such threats were confined to operating systems or high-end silicon. Today, as generative AI infiltrates finance, power grid management, and governance, we face an unprecedented logic dependency. This dependency implies that if global giants like OpenAI or Microsoft sever their API access, nations relying on them would instantly lose their capacity to process massive data, regressing administrative efficiency to the era of pen and paper. China is hypervigilant regarding this potential digital strangulation. In the 15th Five-Year Plan launched in 2026, AI is no longer a mere tech trend. It is defined as the national strategic foundation. Beijing's objective is surgical, from the foundational Ascend chip series to mid-layer compute scheduling and top-tier vertical models. The goal is total, full-stack self-reliance. Simultaneously, the U.S. is counterattacking through Project Stargate. This $500 billion infrastructure titan aims to construct the world's largest compute clusters, securing and enduring intelligence lead. This competition has transcended commerce. It is evolving into a digital iron curtain. One side represents Silicon Valley's free market logic, while the other embodies state-led vertical integration. As France, Saudi Arabia, and India realize they risk permanent exclusion from this inner circle, they are choosing a third path, the construction of sovereign AI. This is the highest stakes resource game in human history, a war for cognitive sovereignty. Whoever controls the model holds the final authority to define societal truth. To understand this race, we must first clarify a core concept. Why has AI shed its identity as a simple tool to take on the biological gravity of a neocortex? In evolution, the neocortex granted humans language, advanced reasoning, and cultural continuity. For the modern nation-state, AI is assuming the exact same functional role. This national neocortex isn't a metaphor. It's a physical entity comprised of millions of GPUs, interlocking ultra-high voltage power grids, and trillions of local language tokens. The core of sovereign AI is a trinity: localized compute storage, legally controlled data, and most critically, the algorithmic alignment of values. This drive is born from a profound geopolitical anxiety, algorithmic bias. Relying on a foreign model means subconsciously adopting a foreign worldview and logical framework. For instance, a medical AI trained on Western datasets might provide entirely erroneous diagnostics when confronted with Eastern traditional therapies or specific physiological traits. This explains why Saudi Arabia, via Project Transcendence, is building billion-dollar compute hubs to hardwire the language and wisdom of the Arab world into silicon. It's also why India insists on localized clusters of 17,000 GPUs. They know that data sovereignty is an empty promise without the algorithms to support it. From China's east-to-west compute hubs in the desert to Europe's support of Mistral to safeguard cultural diversity, global infrastructure is undergoing a radical reconstruction. This shift marks the sunset of digital globalization. We are entering the age of multipolar intelligence, where every civilization is forging an independent digital brain for its own future. For decades, the foundational logic of the digital world has been defined by a handful of offices in Northern California. Today, this de facto algorithmic reign is facing unprecedented scrutiny. Currently, over 90% of global generative AI compute and model ecosystems remain in the hands of fewer than 5 U.S. tech titans. This isn't just a commercial lead, it's a form of cognitive colonialism. When a nation's core sectors, from financial auditing to urban planning, must call upon APIs hosted on Californian servers, that nation has effectively outsourced its neural reflexes. This monopoly carries a subtle, yet dangerous risk: soft value filtering. Silicon Valley models are inherently embedded with specific political correctness, social preferences, and historical narratives. For non-Western civilizations, this filtering can marginalize local cultures in the digital realm or lead to systemic misinterpretations, a phenomenon academics call algorithmic inequality. The deeper threat lies in the weaponization of export controls. AI compute is becoming a new geopolitical lever, capable of being severed at any moment based on foreign policy shifts. This explains why the U.S. government prioritizes maintaining its intelligence lead, utilizing its monopoly over chip design and advanced manufacturing to constrain the strategic space of others. Confronted with this unipolar intelligence landscape, the rest of the world is feeling an existential crisis. They realize that rented intelligence can never secure true national safety. Consequently, a global movement for intelligence decentralization has begun. Nations are no longer content to be mere consumers of AI. They are striving to become its creators. This resistance against monopoly has directly fueled the sovereign AI wave. In this struggle, China is undoubtedly the largest and most determined player on the board. 2026 marks a watershed moment. China's official launch of the 15th Five-Year Plan signals a structural leap from an internet giant to a sovereign intelligence powerhouse. In Beijing's narrative, AI has been elevated to the pinnacle of new quality productive forces. This means it is no longer just an industry. It is the foundational substrate driving all industrial upgrades. China's strategy is rigorous and forward-looking. They are pushing for full-stack self-reliance, attempting to rebuild an independent intelligence ecosystem without relying on U.S. supply chains. At the core of this ecosystem is hardware independence. Huawei's Ascend series is no longer just a backup. It is being deployed across national intelligent compute centers as the backbone of domestic processing. Simultaneously, the East-to-West National Computing Network is enabling cross-regional scheduling of compute power, treating it like water or electricity. This ensures that even under extreme blockades, core algorithms can continue to evolve. Even more critical is the cultural orientation of data. China is constructing massive local datasets to ensure AI models have deep indigenous roots in Chinese context, history, and governance logic. This sovereignization isn't just a defense against sanctions, it's about solving AI's depth of understanding within the complex Chinese linguistic context to leapfrog in autonomous driving, smart cities, and industrial simulation. Driven by the AI Plus Action Plan, this sovereign intelligence is trickling down to the front lines of production, redefining everything from automated factory inspections to smart port logistics. Beijing understands that in the coming global game, if you don't possess an independent Neocortex, your industrial upgrade is akin to building a house on someone else's land. China's unwavering investment is forcing the U.S. to accelerate its own infrastructure spending, while signaling to the rest of the world that sovereign AI is the only ticket to the future. Facing the rise of global sovereign AI, the United States is far from idle. To maintain its intelligence lead, Washington is partnering with tech titans to push a gargantuan initiative known as Project Stargate. The scale of this plan is staggering. an estimated $500 billion investment. Its primary goal has shifted from mere algorithmic optimization to building the world's most massive AI compute clusters and integrated power grids on U.S. soil. Project Stargate represents a strategic pivot, the heavy industrialization of AI. It acknowledges that in the era of sovereign AI, soft power must be backed by hardcore physical infrastructure. This investment isn't just about maintaining a generational tech gap. It's about forging a U.S.-centric, cross-border intelligence alliance to counteract the influence of independent national systems. However, this brute force path faces severe hurdles. The U.S. power grid is aging, and the electricity required for Stargate is equivalent to the consumption of several mid-sized cities. This has forced the U.S. to rethink nuclear energy and grid upgrades alongside data center construction. A mobilization of this scale is, in effect, a stealthy wartime economic mobilization. For the U.S., this is more than a tech race. It's a desperate attempt to prevent the collapse of its digital Bretton Woods. If every nation owns its own AI, U.S. control over global digital discourse will evaporate. Thus, Project Stargate is more than a compute race. It is the final defensive line in America's attempt to lock in global intelligence standards. It sends a clear signal to the world. In the high-stakes game of sovereign AI, the U.S. is ready to push its largest chips into the center to defend its status as the global brain. But the question remains, can the sheer stacking of capital and compute truly halt the arrival of a multipolar intelligence world? If sovereign AI is a nation's neocortex, then the silicon sustaining it is the new oil of the 21st century. Without it, the most sophisticated algorithms are nothing more than dormant code. Geopolitics has fully pivoted toward hardware. Whoever controls the supply of GPUs holds the ticket to intelligence sovereignty. This dependency has bred extreme insecurity. Currently, the supply of advanced AI chips is highly concentrated. Any geopolitical tremor could instantly derail a nation's sovereign AI development. China knows this all too well. During the 15th Five-Year Plan, its strategic focus shifted from model competition to a full-scale breakthrough in chip design, EDA tools, and advanced manufacturing. This drive for full-chain autonomy is reshaping the global semiconductor landscape. Despite blockades, China is utilizing open-source architectures like RISC-V and advanced packaging to find a third way around obstacles. Meanwhile, European and Middle Eastern nations are aggressively deploying investments and subsidies to build domestic chip foundries, aiming to slash their reliance on external supply chains. But the reality is harsh. Developing advanced process chips is agonizingly slow, incredibly expensive, and reliant on hyper-specialized global collaboration. Achieving total hardware sovereignty requires more than just money. It requires time. This creates a paradox. Nations are fighting for sovereignty, yet their core hardware is more dependent than ever on a fragile global network. This scramble for silicon mines is igniting a new kind of arms race. Silicon sovereignty is no longer a commercial asset. It is now a strategic reserve placed alongside food and fuel on national security manifests. As silicon becomes a vital metric of national power, the energy systems fueling this race are facing unprecedented strain. Even with the most advanced chips and algorithms, sovereign AI cannot escape the laws of physics. Today, the ultimate ceiling on the global intelligence race isn't code, it's electricity. In 2025 alone, China's power consumption shattered the 10 trillion kilowatt-hour mark, a figure doubling that of the United States and surpassing the combined totals of the EU, Russia, and India. To fuel the AI expansion of the 15th Five-Year Plan, State Grid China is injecting 4 trillion yuan, roughly $574 billion, into infrastructure. This isn't just about utility poles, it's about constructing the great arteries of a future intelligent society. Such massive mobilization aims to solve the intermittency puzzle. As thousands of compute centers rise in western deserts, the challenge lies in funneling erratic wind and solar energy through ultra-high voltage lines directly into the brains thousands of miles away. Meanwhile, the U.S. is hitting a power wall. By 2026, 5 U.S. data centers will each demand over 1 gigawatt at peak capacity, each requiring the entire output of a dedicated nuclear reactor. The fragmented U.S. grid is nearing its limit. This has forced tech titans to bypass public utilities entirely, acquiring energy firms and even planning their own small modular nuclear reactors, SMRs. This is the electron gap. Whoever first harmonizes energy and compute systems will possess the endurance to survive the sovereign AI marathon. Under Beijing's AI plus energy plan, AI is actually managing the grid, utilizing algorithms to predict demand and pushing energy efficiency toward its theoretical limits. This energy sovereignty game is brutal. If a nation cannot feed its AI cheap, stable power, its national neocortex will inevitably atrophy from energy anemia. As compute and energy become inextricably linked, the most sophisticated tech race in history has regressed to a primal struggle for basic resources. While the physical war for energy rages on, a silent fission is fracturing the digital world. The once unified global internet is shattering under the weight of sovereign AI. This isn't just about physical firewalls anymore. It's a fundamental cognitive divergence. If every civilization trains models on its own exclusive values, truth loses its global standard. Imagine a Chinese AI deeply rooted in Confucian ethics debating an American AI raised on Western progressivism. They would produce diametrically opposed logical deductions on social ethics or historical turning points. This algorithmic sovereignty is leading humanity into an era of mutual incomprehension. We are losing a common factual baseline, replaced by state-defined custom realities. For nations like France or Canada, this is a fight for cultural survival. Without sovereign models, their youth may eventually lose their local identities within the algorithmic narratives of the US or China. This is about more than avoiding brainwashing. It's about preserving intellectual diversity. Yet, the price of this diversity is the rapid contraction of a global space for dialogue. By 2026, cross-border digital governance will become nightmarish due to model incompatibility. Every AI stack will be an isolated fortress with walls built of data, law, and ideology. This fractured reality will reshape geopolitics. Future diplomacy might not be a game of human statesmanship, but a complex struggle of translation and alignment between competing sovereign models. We are at a perilous crossroads. Either accept single-polar dependency and surrender our souls to algorithmic colonialism, or choose absolute partitioning and wither away as isolated tribes. Multipolarity without dialogue is simply a digital Cold War that tears humanity apart. The true test, while building sovereign walls, do we have the courage to leave a crack in the gate for shared human reason? For once cognition is fully locked away, no truth survives within the walls. The road to sovereign AI is not paved with roses. It demands a staggering economic, environmental, and diplomatic price. Only a select few nations can afford the ticket to true autonomy. First is the financial abyss. To achieve full-stack self-reliance by 2030, China must sustain trillion-yuan investments, while the $500 billion for the U.S. Project Stargate is merely the opening ante. Second is the crushing environmental burden. A massive national neocortex carries an immense carbon footprint. Balancing the compute race against climate pledges is a moral dilemma every sovereign power must face. But the steepest price may be the loss of efficiency. Globalization thrives on specialized collaboration, whereas sovereign AI is essentially reinventing the wheel at a national scale. For the sake of security, nations are discarding optimized global supply chains in favor of costlier, unproven domestic alternatives. This regressive efficiency is the premium paid for independence. A deeper risk lies in cognitive isolation. By severing shared global algorithmic foundations to protect cultural sovereignty, we forfeit the chance to solve planetary crises using a unified logical framework. In the realm of sovereign AI, we are trapped behind a cognitive sieve of national will. It doesn't ban thought, it predetermines conclusions through structural refinement. Truth is no longer universal, halting at digital borders as an isolated reality. In the future, the cost of international cooperation will skyrocket. We will have to solve algorithmic trust issues before even beginning to discuss actual collaboration. Autonomy is not a gift. It is purchased with the sacrifice of global efficiency, the radical consumption of energy, and the fragmentation of the cognitive commons. Is it worth it? This will be the most difficult question left for the policymakers of this century. We stand at a singularity in human history. AI has transcended its status as a tool, becoming the ultimate extension of national power, a digital brain grafted onto the sovereign state. To summarize this race, from a U.S. focus on raw compute to China's strategic push for full-stack autonomy, and onto the cultural defenses in the Middle East and Europe, sovereign AI is the ultimate frontier. We can foresee a multipolar intelligence world. Is arguably fairer than a unipolar monopoly, yet far more complex and prone to conflict than the age of globalization. The creation of the national Neocortex means human thought, culture, and law are being encoded into cold silicon. We are entrusting the continuity of civilization to algorithms. This shift is irreversible. In future geopolitics, nations without sovereign AI will lose their seat at the table, as they forfeit the right of interpretation over future trends. However, in our pursuit of sovereignty, we must never forget, AI should ultimately expand human wisdom, not fortify walls of hatred and bias. Once every nation possesses its own digital mind, we will require a meta-dialogue that transcends sovereignty to prevent these superintelligences from leading the world into an abyss of misunderstanding. The intelligence horizon is ahead. This is not just a technological duel, it is the ultimate test of whether humanity can find common ground amidst fragmentation. Only when we learn how to make these national neocortices understand one another will there be a true winner in this race. In an era of fractured sovereign AI, we are not just defining technology, we are defining the boundaries of truth. If every decision you make is guided by a state-defined digital brain, what do you fear losing most? We look forward to your insights in the comments. If this perspective provided value, please subscribe to Stratum Logic. Your likes and shares directly support our work in delivering deep analysis. Thank you for deep thinking with us.